This is it, what? Fettuccine with the team, we getting lit, what? Got it rolled up, now who really tryna hit one? Puff, puff, then we pass, then we pass, then we pass. This is it, what? Fettuccine with the team, we getting lit, what? Got it rolled up.
Oh man,
Back again.
where are we?
Man, I don't know. We in the lounge?
I feel like we're in the lounge.
We in the
It's been a
lounge?
minute. It's been so few and far between this year.
Right.
But it's good to be back. We in the lounge, and you know what that means. We got a very special guest.
Special guest, ladies and gentlemen.
But of course, it's your man EarthTone.
And your man, the real PZ.
And it's the Herbal Tea Podcast. We are in the lounge. I'm so excited about this one. Like I'm hyped. Like I'm really gassed.
Yeah.
I don't get gassed too often, but this one we kind of been chasing for a little bit.
The way it came through in a clutch like this,
Yeah.
had to just, he said yeah, and then
Bang, bang, bang. The stars aligned. The universe spoke.
exactly.
And here we are, man.
Here
We
we
got
are.
the one and only DDM, Dapper Dan Midas himself in the building with us. Welcome,
flesh.
welcome
in
to
the
the lounge.
flesh.
Welcome to the lounge.
What's going on, y'all? How you doing?
What's poppin'? What's going on with you?
I'm doing great. You know, I'm in the beautiful season of life. I can't complain. I can't complain.
As them dimples are showing us. You know what I'm saying?
We love the dimples over here. We love
the
the dimples.
dimples. We love them.
All right, so we're just gonna get right into it. We're just gonna kick it today. We're gonna be kicking it. We got a bunch of things to ask you.
For real.
But whatever you want to get off, you get off. It's gonna go where it go.
Okay.
We're gonna do it just like that. Let's get it cracking off.
All right, so DDM, we've been knowing each other for a minute, you know what I'm saying? We're gonna go ahead and this full disclosure.
Yeah.
We kind of go back a little ways. And I remember the first show, but vaguely, the first show that we met at in Philly. And it was with a band that put us on.
Yeah.
Sergeant Sass, I believe is the name of the band.
Yes.
What do you remember about that show and that time frame?
Okay. That show, Blur.
Period.
No, Sergeant Sass, Naquan, love him. That time in particular was very chaotic for me. Like, honestly, at the time I was not working. I was, surfing from couch to couch. I didn't have stable housing. But it was the most fun, creative time. I feel like, honestly, that was my quote-unquote college years, even though I didn't go to college. Like, that era of my life, I learned everything. Philly in particular at that time was so fun and vibrant and, free and expressive and unique. At one time I was entertaining moving there.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
Listen.
I'm glad I didn't though.
It's great.
That
All right, we here. All of that. But this is about you. Let's go ahead. What happened?
No, I'm just glad because I think that it's just like my relationship with San Francisco. I love San Francisco the first time I went there back in 2011, 2012. And at the time, it was just before like the tech industry and gentrification had really taken San Francisco over. So you still had a lot of great art presence, a lot of great DIY presence, a lot of great gay presence. I mean, they still have that, but it was just, I feel like I got to see it at the tail end of what it was designed to be. Fast forward, I went there in 2019 for a show just before the pandemic, and I was horrified. And I'm from West Baltimore City. When I tell you, I went out, number one, the promoter, who were fabulous. They did everything for me. Shout out to Davo. Had put me in a hotel downtown. And Westfield Mall is in downtown San Francisco, for those of you who may not be familiar. And it's also the social services building, which, by the way, being an East Coaster, the shit looked like a mall in itself. Like, it was gorgeous, right? So I go to the hotel, and I'm like, I'm hungry. This is around 8 o'clock at night. The mall closes at like 7:30. And so I get to walking, and I see the streets, they literally came alive with nothing but homeless people. And like, I'm walking throughout, and I walk past the social services building, the entire lawn, nothing but tents.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God, like, I'm from West Baltimore, okay?
Yeah.
I turned my black ass around and said I'm a DoorDash.
Wow.
Okay? And it's not so much the homeless issue. I want to be very clear on that, even though San Francisco and California at large has a very terrible homeless problem.
Absolutely.
And you literally see $1 million homes with people sleeping at the end of the driveway. So it's just terrible. But it's not even so much the homelessness. They have a lot of homeless people who have mental health problems.
Of course.
So you're compacting a terrible housing market with people who need mental health assistance. And some of the behaviors I was seeing, I was like, this is not safe. And so I went back. But I still live in Baltimore. I feel like I always have residence in Baltimore, but I also feel like I've outgrown it. I feel like I'm very much becoming a citizen of the world. I feel at home on trains and planes more now, and then going to different places. Like, even being in New York, catching a train is becoming second nature to me. I don't feel strange, you know.
It does take some getting used to.
Yeah, it's just different,
If
you
you're
know.
not from there. You had mentioned in a previous interview, speaking on being a late bloomer and not really living life until you were like 22. Kind of speak to that and some of the pros and cons of that. Like, what were some of the things you observed? Because that's an interesting observation to make about yourself.
Well, yeah, I look at, and this is gonna sound shady. I look at the people I went to high school with, and I look at where they're at in life, and a lot of them are doing very well. I'm gonna be very honest about that. But I see life on their face. They are so aged and so, it's a lot going on there. Even with like my friend group, like I'm in a place where I am just not at the same place a lot of my friends who I've known. Like, when we were going out in the clubs, everything was fine and stuff like that. And now, they all have gotten married. Most of them have gotten married. They're now in that season where they're having children. And that's just not where I'm at, I was a virgin until I was, 22 years old. And even then...
Decidedly?
Nobody liked me. Like honestly, like, I'm gonna be very, very honest and very candid. And this maybe shouldn't be the example, but when I used to be like even heavier. And in high school, I really didn't understand my look. And so I had lost a lot of weight, got in great shape, and then people liked me. And so part of that was I was very aloof. My mom did a great job at keeping me a child as long as possible. And when you grade that against your peers at the time, I was like, this is terrible. Like, you're not letting me do anything. But when I look at my life now, she preserved me very well. And she actually did me a service. And so, like, for me, even now, I'm a late bloomer. Like, I'm just getting to the point where I can entertain a serious relationship. I've only been in one relationship ever in my life, and that was 14 years ago. And that wasn't even a relationship. That was really just me, like, being in lust because I was a virgin until I was 22. Wow. So it was like, we're having great sex and we're together.
Well, this is it. I guess this is it.
We totally shouldn't have been together. Had no business being together. But yeah, it's been 14 years now, actually going on 15. And I'm just getting to a place where I can date and not feel like we're gonna be together, this is gonna be it.
Yeah.
No, we're just on a date. You know, we're just dating. You know, and I'm even like, as far as the hooking up piece, I am just getting to a place where it's like, oh, we just had sex. That was fine. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like, and like I used to be, especially in those first years, I used to be very, very intense. And like even the guy who, my first sexual encounter with, you know, it was. I think he was like, when he found out that he was my first sexual encounter, he felt terrible because he was not kind to me.
Oh.
And when he realized that, he was like, shit, because he was an older guy. And I think he kind of realized, like, oh my God, like that kind of thing. But I mean, you know, I'm a late bloomer, but I'm thankful for that.
Wait, not kind to you like he was abusive or?
Oh, not abusive, but you know, I didn't
an
understand
asshole.
how it works.
Yeah,
okay.
he's probably like, all
Right.
I just smashed. Like, don't.
Exactly.
We ain't doing all that. Like, go ahead.
Exactly. No, look,
I got you.
Not by any means.
I got you.
But I think once he realized what it was, he was like there. But yeah, I've always been a late bloomer, and I'm thankful for that. And those are the positives. The cons to that is sometimes you can miss your moment. And when I look at, because you're taking too long, you got to be able to adapt. And being a late bloomer doesn't mean you can't adapt and you can't pivot. But I have a very, you know, I'm from Baltimore City, so I have a southern tinge to how I move and how I think about things. You know, so it's very like, okay, we'll get to it. You know, kind of thing. And sometimes you can't be like that.
Definitely when you get to a certain point, it's like, all right, we need this, we need that. Like, let's go. What we doing?
I can definitely relate to all of that. Yeah, it took me a while to move at the speed of New York, but you know, anyway.
Well, that's what'll jolt you though. You get to a place like New York, you don't have a choice. Really.
You don't.
It's like, okay,
you
you're
don't.
either gonna get up to speed or
you're gonna be homeless on that lawn. So.
Yeah.
All right. Let's pivot to when you first got in the game. All right. So you came in, you battled, you went viral on World Star Hip Hop for like basically, you know, clapping back at somebody that tried to out you pretty much. Okay. Then you came in and you came out, well, you already out. You dropped a few songs. That's how I got to know you. You dropped songs like Legendary, Killer Queen. Let's, you know, take us through that transition from battling to doing music. Where's that music at? You know, if you still have it. Is it gonna be on streaming? Cause you know, a bitch got them songs, but I'm like, where's the streaming? You know what I'm saying? So talk about all of that. Take a look at that time period.
I think you got more of my songs than I do. No, it was a different time. It was, you know, it was necessary to have to do that. It was necessary to have to do battles. You know, that's how I started. And also for me, battling at the time, this is before URL, this is before all of those things, where battling has become an industry. It was a quick way, to get some coins from dope dealers, and also a quick way to get your name out there. And when I say quick way to get coins from dope dealers, you know, at least in my city, they would bet on us. They would do side bets. A lot of the prize money at those competitions, you know, were funded by illegal means. That's just the reality.
Okay. I didn't know that part.
So, a lot of like in Baltimore in those years, if you know, when I first started, studio time was very expensive. Now you can do everything in your house. So most kids like myself didn't have $75 to $100 to pay for studio time per hour. So you did your battles, you did your shows, and you know, your neighborhood dope boy or somebody, you know, invest in you, and you know, that whole thing, you know.
Oh man.
And that's how it worked. Now me, I always worked. Whether it was cutting grass, working a job, I just always worked. But even then, it wasn't enough to do it. So even I had someone, shout out to Chuck, even I had someone who helped me in that process. So it was just a different time. Now the kids don't have to do that. And I think also too, at that time, oh God, I make myself sound ancient. At that time.
It's history. It's a history lesson, y'all.
It is. At that time, that was a prerequisite for hip hop. Never mind, you know, the whole, even
like
taking the
second
queer
song.
space out of it, like, it was a requirement. You had to be, if you couldn't battle, you at the very least had to be able to do ciphers and freestyle. And if you didn't freestyle, you needed to have written
Have a
ready.
verse in the tuck.
You know?
Be ready.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you
That
had,
part I know.
At the very least.
it had to be there. And so, that's just the culture that I was birthed in, which is why even to this day I'm a fiercely competitive person. I'm a fiercely competitive person on stage. I'm a fiercely competitive person even when it's showtime, the actual sonics on the mic. A lot of the sound engineers at shows now will tell me we haven't heard anybody perform without backing tracks in years.
Oh my God. Like, that's so refreshing to hear because I hate that. Like, that's a pet peeve of mine. When I go to the show and I hear you just rapping over the song, like, you pretty much just going to Spotify and playing your song and rapping with it. Like, no.
We talk about this all the time on the show.
But that's a thing. Like,
All the
that's a
time.
newer thing. Like, people don't even recognize that that's going on if they weren't from that era. It's like, what are you talking about?
Like it's funny and it's interesting because coming from battle culture, even though I'm a soft-spoken person in life, on the mic I have a very loud, pronounced tone. So even in the battle of noise, it's kind of ingrained in me to be able to cut through other acts because that's how I was trained.
You have to,
You know. So it's that time was just a different time. Also too, it was tough. You know, we couldn't get meetings if you like being our artist. You know this. You couldn't get meetings. You couldn't get
So many
opportunities. You were so dependent on DIY spaces, which is why I will always have a love in my heart for the warehouse kids and the art kids. You were so dependent on those things because there was no Lil Nas X, there was no Saucy Santana, there was none of these people. Like now a black kid, especially black children, queer children, can look on TV and they can see an example of who they could possibly be. Whereas our era, when I first started, at least for me, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, my avatars were usually black female rappers or gay white entertainers who were like way older.
Of course.
You know.
Speaking of that, you mentioned that. What's your take on this new gay rap pop revolution? You mentioned Lil Nas X, Saucy Santana. You got artists like Steve Lacy, K Tronada on the other spectrum of it. What do you think about that? What are the effects of that? Because you mentioned like we coming from a different era where we didn't have that. That wasn't readily available. You could just go on your phone and download an album from your favorite gay pop artist. Like you have that now. So what do you think of that whole movement and revolution?
I think it's beautiful, honestly. It's so funny because when people ask me this question, especially because I haven't gotten my moment, quote unquote, yet, and as it pertains to a national and global level. And I think they ask me sometimes to see, because they expect me to be frustrated. They expect me to feel cheated. And I just don't feel that way because I've always been a chameleon. I'm like Doctor Who. I will reinvent myself every few years. Every few years. And I think having this is great because, like, it's so funny. I look at when I first started, I was like, oh my God, he's a gay person. It's like you're a leper and a pariah. Fast forward now, it's like, oh, he's the gay person, but he's like the cool gay person. I went from being a leper to being a digestible version of the culture, which is so interesting to me.
Man, that's right there. That's a whole statement. That's
it's
an entire statement.
But it is so true because I have, people from all walks of life, gay, straight, even with like my YouTube with Secretary Shade and all of that. Like, I have so many cisgender men who will sit and have conversations with me, like sit and talk. And they're like, I can just relate to you. I like how you do it. I said, well, you're also talking to a person who is a real millennial in the sense that I know how to communicate in an analog and digital way.
Oh, we talking about that all the time.
Kind of different.
I feel like
It's not too many generations that have that though. You got to think that's a singular pocket right there.
It really is.
Like where we had 1 foot in, 1 foot out type. Like we knew what it was like to dial up, have a regular phone,
For real.
call waiting, somebody on my hang up the phone. Like we had all of that to the point where we had to learn how to use cell phones, learn how to type. Like I had typewriting in high school.
Me too.
Like,
I sucked at
That's
it.
how
I still
I
did it.
type.
But I think that also contributes to this generation's ability to constantly reinvent and pivot, because we've seen so many not only technological changes but human evolution changes
For real.
in our short time. Like when you look at, let's say Beyonce, for example, she's 40, 41 now. Well, she'll be 41 September 4th, 2022.
I knew he was gonna run it down. Like, pinpoint.
We already knew it.
She's 40, but her 40 doesn't look like what we envisioned.
It's different. Yeah, like we're changing changing the mold.
Different.
Like even myself, I will never give the exact number, but I look at,
Okay.
lady never tells her.
Let it
age.
never tells her age.
But when I look at how old I am and my age, and I look at my peer group, and I go to clubs now, since we've been able to go to clubs again, and I talk to kids who are like 20, 21, and they're like, yeah, so, did you just graduate college? Like, what's going on? What are you doing? And in my mind, I'm like, sis, I was doing the college thing when you were like in elementary school.
Sis.
Come
on, sis.
But I'm thankful though, because to them,
yeah.
they don't, I think also too, we have a lot of things to help us, a lot of skincare regimens, a lot of just
Everything.
different things.
You were
that
talking
just-
about that rate of change. It's so fast now. Like we evolved at a different rate. It's
Different
like
speed.
exponentially. Yeah.
Okay. Let's pivot on to the next era of your career, Bond Street District. Talk about that. How did that come about? What happened to Groove? What were some of your successes? Anything?
Oh, God, y'all gonna get the real story.
That's what we here for.
This is exactly
That's
what we here for.
First, me and Paul are still great friends. We talk at least once a week.
Awesome.
He has a beautiful wife, beautiful daughter.
Oh, he's
She's so
straight?
cute. Yeah.
Okay.
Damn, you disappointed.
I just
huh?
wanted. I just. No, just
You
a
was
job.
that's the rescue we was trying to get. Okay, heard you.
Not at all. What do you mean?
No, that's fine. No, Bond Street District came about. I met Paul Hudson at this local club, The Crown, which is where all of the art kids and DIY kids, all of us went. And he was doing photography at the time when I was performing. And he came up and talked to me. He's like, yeah, I do music. I'm here photography, taking pictures and everything. I was like, you do music? And he was like, yeah. I was like, okay, well, let's exchange numbers. Now, I'm going to be honest. I also thought Paul was incredibly attractive.
Imagine that.
So I was like, okay, so we'll talk music or whatever. And, Paul, I quickly learned that he was straight or what have you. And so we came down to his apartment in Fells Point and we listened to old records. One thing I liked about being in a group with Paul Hudson was that we were students of art and everything surrounding it. So we would just sit and listen to old records. We would sit and watch, we educated each other in different ways. He would have me watch shit like Community and stuff about Spike Jones and, French films and, he taught me a lot about how to conduct myself on film sets, how film crews need to be treated, down to catering, hours, like he taught me that.
Like a mentor of sorts.
In that regard, we mentored each other because I would never give Paul mentor status.
Okay. All right.
But he taught me.
Whoa, easy with the credits, B.
My bad.
He taught me a lot about that. The flip side of that was I taught him a lot about the artistic side because Paul is incredibly skilled in the tech specs. He is an artist in his own right, but I made him watch a lot of fashion films. We studied a lot of creative theory, a lot of art movies and things like that. That's kind of what I brought to the table, and I also brought the showpiece. So we would sit and I would make him watch Tina Turner footage and Diana Ross footage and James Brown footage.
The complimentary.
And all of that stuff.
Yeah,
and
that's hard.
When I would watch award shows, he would laugh. He would always act like he got on his nerves, but I know he got a kick out of it. Because I would scream when certain parts would come on and he would like film it and stuff like that.
Oh man.
So
sounds
it
like
was,
a match made in heaven.
It was probably, that's why me and Paul are still friends to this day.
I love that.
And you know, the group, I think, it's not an issue of, we had some things, especially with our second record, that were not, it made it stressful being in the group, but it wasn't our fault. And it wasn't his fault and it wasn't my fault. And I think coming out of that, I realized that, I think we both realized that. I think also too, I'm a drill sergeant. And I don't think Paul was ready, quite frankly, for where I was trying to get us in the vision that I had. And I think Paul wanted to very much have his own personal life. He wanted to get married. I went to his wedding, beautiful wedding. He wanted to have a child. He wanted to, you know, have the home and all of that stuff. That was not in the cards for me. So at some point, I'm like, okay, so we get ready to move to New York. What are we gonna do? Okay, let's do it. We in this together.
He like, yeah.
Not really. But fast forward, we found ourselves working together, not in the same capacity, but with certain things from film ideas and things like that. And at the end of the day, me and Paul love each other. I love him dearly. Even though we are not romantically linked, he is one of the great loves of my life.
That's dope. I
love that shit.
Man. Human relationships.
All right, this was the episode
You can't
of
box
A&E
them in. You can't
Lifetime.
Yeah. We love it. We love it.
All
Okay, let me ask you this. Who is Uncle Lulu?
Oh my God, that was a persona I created for Bond Street District for our first EP. Everybody's Still Sleeping, the project had a retro kind of film blaxploitation kind of feel to it, and that's where the character came up as. Yeah, so I was like, okay, we'll do that. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. What we got next? All right, Secretary of Shade era. How did that come about?
Oh, that was a beautiful accident. Oh, that was the gift that keeps on giving, honey. Oh my God.
Those are the best.
Secretary of Shade was, like, for me, one of my favorite things. Secretary of Shade came when I was incredibly depressed. It came in a depressed moment because I had a huge letdown. I had made a whole album called Soundtrack to a Shopping Mall, which I still think is probably the greatest project that people will never hear from.
Oh my God! Why won't the people hear the song? Why won't they hear it?
You know, people have to sign off on things. People want things done a certain kind of way, and I respect that.
Okay.
I respect that.
Fair enough.
But when you're self-financed and you got to hear those things, it's an incredible blow. So kids, always get the shit signed off on before you start promoting it. But
You're talking about samples,
not
beat
samples,
premises.
just to make sure that you are in line with your producer, you're in line with the people, the personnel, and they know what you're trying to do and what your parameters are. And the project, I had did a release show for it and everything for an album I couldn't even put out, but I had already committed to the dates at the venue, right? And I got real depressed. And this is around the time when Trump was going into office. And Omarosa had wrote her book, and I was like, this is going to be good, you know. So I went down to Barnes and Nobles on my lunch break from work downtown, and I bought it. And I said, I'm gonna read this online, bitch, because it's gonna be a kick. And I'm like, only like 3 people gonna watch anyway. So I do like a little bit, we'll chuckle along, and then I'll move on with my life. And God had a different plan, because when I went to sleep, it was like maybe 100 views. I woke back up, it was like almost 30,000 people had watched that reading.
That's a jump. That's a jump.
And it got to like, at the end, the final ticker, it was like maybe almost 1 million people had watched that. And mind you, I was going for like an hour. And so at the time, I had, you know, Random House wanting to send me every book under the sun. I had did The Hill. I got contacted by news outlets. Omarosa called me.
Damn.
She actually came to Baltimore and did Secretary of Shade. One thing I will say about Omarosa, nice lady to this day, still keeps in contact with me. And
that's beautiful. That's
she
the
came
opposite of the reputation. Right. Opposite.
And that's the thing. I think I think the lesson that she taught me was television is just that. On TV, you are there to entertain. Even your newscasters are entertainers to a certain degree. And you can't always base what you think of a person on what you've seen on a reality show. And you can comment on it on the show itself, but any personal attacks, you can't really do that, you know? And she was a stand-up lady. She came to Baltimore to film, and I was like, okay, so we can, you know, pay for you to get a car and all that, because I'm like, she's like a best-selling author at this point. I mean, she is who she is, right? And she's like, no, we'll get the publisher to pay for it. You're not paying for any of that. We'll get her to do it. I'm already going to be in D.C. And she came down. And she didn't just come like to downtown Baltimore. She came like near Drew Hill Park, which is over there west, you know.
Over west.
Yeah.
Over west.
Near West.
Ballad of Omar.
Okay.
She came and she showed up, and Secretary of Shade grew, and I think what that did was it gave people a 3-dimensional view of me. It also helped my personality get out there a lot, because during those political readings, during those political recaps, it did galvanize a lot of people. I've had senators send me, you know, letters of, you know, thanks, and, you know, you're doing a service to the community.
Wow.
All kinds of things,
That's
you know.
incredible.
And I like Secretary of Shade because it's me. I curse. I say some out the way shit, but it's real, it's researched, and I think ultimately what it is about that, people trust me. And they trust that what I'm saying is true. And I think that's why with Secretary of Shade, people are like, oh no, you should get sponsored, you should get this. I said, everything shouldn't be an endorsement. And I said, this is, at the time we're living in right now, this is needed. I can't tell you how many people, especially after certain tragedies that happen, will come and sit and listen to my live. I've had people that I've met since the pandemic, things have lifted, and they've told me, white people, black people, old people. I've had old ladies in the market say, you know, I've had some really bad days, but your cabinet meetings have really helped me through this pandemic.
Damn, that's crazy.
I had people, I didn't realize that there were people living in apartments by themselves who every Tuesday and Thursday, they look forward to that meeting at 7 o'clock.
Never know who's watching.
You know?
That's 100% true. Like, shout out to you for all the success with that, you know, still giving the people exactly what they need in a timely manner, because, you know, let's not sleep on the time that it came through.
Yeah.
It came in right when it needed to be.
Absolutely. Speaking of the times we are in, what did you think? I don't know if you saw it, but when you heard that Isaiah Rashad's sex tape leaked.
I didn't feel too bad.
Yeah, like it was a weird situation for me, because if that would have happened in a certain time, it would have been like, okay, that would have been
It would have been over.
It would have been a thing, boom, boom, boom. But this one, not so much. Like, what was your take on that?
You know, everybody's sex tape is going to get leaked eventually.
Sure is.
If you're taping anything, and it's in the cloud, you cancel Christmas. I didn't think that. I didn't think it was.
Did
a
you
big
know
deal.
though? Did you know he was fam, or was it like a surprise to you?
You know, I think
'Cause I had no
fam
idea.
has a different meaning for me now.
Yeah.
I think sexuality is very fluid. I'm sounding like one of the new girls now.
Of course. Go ahead.
I think sexuality is very fluid. And so now I look at gay, LGBTQ, same gender loving for my older black folks, as they can't stand that term.
Yeah.
That LGBTQ.
Oh my
they,
God!
they,
Wow.
No, they want same gender.
Wow.
Like they
they love it. They
love that.
They live
do
it
that.
down
Yeah.
that hill.
Same gender loving.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love that. They love that term. But I think that we have to, at least in my eyes, we have to recontextualize what family is, and gay as a culture and gay as a sexuality. Now, is he gay and is he femme in the sexuality sense? Yes. But do I consider him femme in the cultural sense? No.
Well, we'll see.
And I wouldn't say he was gay. I'd say he probably bi.
Yeah. He's fluid.
He said he was fluid. He's one of the new kids. He's one of the nieces, so that he's the one going around with that.
Back in the day, you had an angle and you stuck with it.
Right, exactly.
You know, now,
They
you
didn't
know.
do that shit. You just did what you wanted behind closed doors and like, all right,
Yeah.
you stuck with some shit. That was the real tea.
Speaking of sexuality and roles
that's what we
and
speaking of?
things of that nature.
Roles? I like roles.
We talking. So you put the new single out, Hoochie Daddy.
Oh, come on now. You can't be blushing and you got a single called Hoochie Daddy.
Right.
What we doing?
Exactly. I know this DDM. So you have a whole relationship with the bear community. Bear World magazine had you basically plastered centerfold, Playboy centerfold, Playboy
the face?
centerfold,
Is this the face?
Playboy centerfold.
It was very much given. It was Gap.
What's your relationship with the bear community? How have you embraced it? Do you consider yourself part of it?
I am a person I'm a gypsy, quite frankly. I interweave into so many different communities. I've never actually felt like a hardcore member of anyone's subset. And that's not because I'm trying to be that person. I just never did, I think the closest I've ever become like tied into a subset probably is the DIY warehouse art kid, fake art school kind of like space, because that's where I live. But as far as the bear community, I am a Southern belle at the end of the day. And I always tell people this. I think that it's several things at play, right? So like with the bear community, and I don't want to label them as any type of way, but I'm a regal type of bitch.
I don't know that's the fuck
Okay.
right. Come on, regality.
My Nigerian ancestry just dictates a certain kind of way that I'm going to carry myself, a certain kind of way that I'm going to present myself. And sometimes I think that reads as unapproachable. I think that reads as, and some of that is by design, but I think that
gotta protect our hearts and shit out here.
Everybody can't just run up.
Yeah, for real.
I think that I went to Big Boy Pride because I was a title holder. And
come on now, titles. Don't just skip over the title holding.
I'm gonna gloss that over. Nah,
Because I'm
we don't
holding
gloss.
titles over there. Because that's why I win.
I won the Big Boy Pride.
Okay.
And one of the guys there, Richie, who's a sweetheart, we was at brunch talking about relationships and stuff, and he said, and we were in Big Boy Pride, you want to have your fun and all of that. And I was like, nobody talks to me in that way here. Like nobody approaches me, and I would totally be down for it.
Wow. Oh man.
But nobody talks to me like that. And he goes, you don't understand how you present. You present as a person that commands respect, which I do. Even if I want you to treat me like a host, a certain way that you have to approach me for that. And I didn't realize, but that's so who I am. That's just who I am, So I think with the community at large. You know, it's so crazy. Like when I look at, I'm gonna let you lead that conversation. But when I look at like even my relationships, both romantically and like, you know, my hookups and stuff like that, it is always the most unexpected people. Like right now, and I'm not gonna put him out there. You know, it's not a real thing. Like I have fun from time to time with this guy who's like a former Mormon, like thick, you know, white guy, and
The Mormons, man.
he's like probably I'm gonna
Mormon
give
boys.
him
We doing Mormon boys
top
porn.
5.
Top 5, never rely.
But I'm gonna give him top 5. The reason why I'm giving him top 5 is because he does something that a lot of people don't do, and that's aftercare.
Interesting.
Like our physical chemistry is great, but it is top 5 just off that. But he is just so cool. After the fact, we sit and talk about Scarlet Witch and MCU, and you know he's encouraging, and we encourage each other.
He wipe you down with a warm washcloth.
Oh, you know what the warm bar?
Yes,
Fam,
come on, son.
The warm
Fam, if your barber don't do that at the end of your cut, then you need to find somebody else.
Yeah.
So the warm rag
man,
after
listen.
a nice little.
Yeah.
Are we looking out like that? Is that what we're doing? No,
Yeah.
I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it there.
The warm rag is the moment, but no, like even even when people ask me, they say, "Well, what is your type?" Because I think people assume that I may have a type. I really don't. And when I look at the men who I like the most, none of them look or feel the same. I had one guy that I was really in tune with. He was like maybe 6 feet. He was a rail, like super thin, dope boy, but some of the greatest conversations I've ever had. Another one was an older gentleman that was Middle Eastern, and he was kind of pushy, but in the most sweet way. And he's like, "You can do it. You can do it. You're gonna do it. Just do it." You know, like kind of a thing. Like, so yeah, it's just I don't know. It's just different.
Okay. You mentioned that the media does a good job of pretending to be progressive. Do you feel like that's still accurate? Like, so speak to that. Why do you feel that way?
Well, very much so. This is show business. Politics is show business. Show business is show business. It's show business, not show friends. And
is there any way to cut through that? Like as an artist, is there any way to like speak to us directly, get through all of the commodification, and like just have a clear-cut message? Like, do you think there's any way around that?
I think in America right now, the only way that'll happen is through severe trauma. Right now, everything is so prepackaged, and that's everything. Even when you look at the magazines, you look at the video, the level of trust is just not there because nothing feels, I think organic is the thing that is missing. Nothing feels organic from, you know, like even when you look at certain fashion magazines, it's the reason why we like the British version and the French and Italian version more than we like the American version. When you look at just things in general, like even, okay, this is Pride Month, you know, it's kind of like feeling like a black person twice because you're only getting booked because it's Pride Month.
No, like, right?
You know,
That's crazy.
you're only like Pride toothpaste, Pride bagels, Pride, you know, towels, everything. Like everything. Everybody has a Pride capsule collection.
Rainbows everywhere.
You know, Versace had a share Pride shirt.
We just was coming back, passing down, was it Midtown, and what Nordstrom had the lights on the windows.
Come on, Nordstrom.
Fucking wow.
Rainbow pattern.
Listen,
Let me guess.
Just saying.
So everything is a business. Everything.
But I mean, it's like, all right, what's the opposite of that? Like, just no acknowledgement, no love. Like, is that the balance? Like, how do we find the balance? What's the middle ground?
I think intent is the thing, you know. I think one thing that I pride myself on is education. This is where some of the newer girls, we tend to bump heads because I come from a time where, I don't even remember all the pronouns and letters and shit. So if I'm in the community, I know what it is. You have to give people grace and a little bit of agency to step in a time. If this, I'm not saying, and some people say, well, if they said that about racism and black people, I say, well, the world and the country has had centuries to deal with that, okay?
That's the difference.
But even still, like when you're pronoun, like if someone's lived their whole life and in a male and female construct with no deviation,
Hard to align that.
or the deviation was seen as an anomaly, you have to give them room to reprogram because you're going through decades of programming.
Yeah, that don't just
You know,
you
Lights
don't just
off,
snap that off
switch, yeah.
overnight. Like it's like, all right, that's gonna be a progress.
Like relax.
yeah, you
Surprise.
Not
give them
personally
their
attacking
space,
it.
It's
right?
all
You know, like you know, I don't just bite people's heads off, you know, because I'm
the
just
sake
not
of
that
it,
person.
yeah.
I'm very big on education, and you know, I also look at things with intent and nuance. I'm looking at what the intention was. Like case in
What's the
point,
purpose?
Kendrick Lamar's record about his his aunt who transitioned,
Mine's
a trans
in
man.
now.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and you know, and I'm gonna get flack for what I'm getting ready to say right now. I thought it was a beautiful record.
This is a top hip hop artist. Like he has all of the ears. If anybody's gonna listen to hip hop and music, you're listening to this album. So the fact that he put it on there and he took some time, like it's not just it's a personal story.
And also too, even let's look at it from purely an art level. To a young child of that time, this is a child in the 90s,
Time.
okay?
Time is key.
That child would not say, my uncle, that child would say, Aunt Rosalind is a man now. That's what that child would say. That's like making a film about a certain time in history and retconning
It's a
the
timepiece.
history.
We came up.
It's
We
a
came up.
timepiece. You gotta, but people, they don't know how to critique art now because everything is so like, okay, you gotta be political, you gotta please everybody. Everything's not meant to please everybody. Some things are meant for you to have a reaction and think about it. And there's nothing wrong with that.
We came up in the era of Mrs. Doubtfire, where the boy, the son of Sally Fields, who was the mother, you know what I'm saying, that hired Mrs. Doubtfire,
Robin.
saw Robin Williams in the bathroom in character, taking a stand and piss, dressed in the full Mrs. Doubtfire, and the shock value of that was a big deal. This was 95, 6, something like that. This is the era we're coming from. So, you know, a couple decades is not gonna undo what that world is, but I mean, I digress. Next topic. All right, you were sharing your health journey online, talking about you are sharing your workout regimens pretty often with your audience. Okay, what brought you to that space? What's some of your goals with your health journey?
It's really about health journey. Like my relationship with food, I think has changed a lot now. I think that's the difference. I'm the Luther Vandross of Baltimore City. I done been up and down.
See what I'm saying? See, and
Not
just proves my
Luther. Leave
point.
Luther alone.
Just
I
proves my
love
point.
Luther.
Boom, come
I
on.
love Luther.
Boom. All right, here we go.
Up and down, right?
That's funny.
And so, but
Man.
the difference is this time is my mental health and my relationship with food. Like when I first started, because it was getting critical mass, right? I was on an 800 calorie a day diet, which 800 calories is really hard. You're essentially eating fish and greens. That's it.
That's a lot.
And water.
That's crazy.
So I did that for a month and a half.
You know what? I would try it. I would try it for myself.
I still do that, but I'll do it like maybe
day?
2 days a week.
I can't do
I'll
that.
be like, this is an 800 calorie day. So I'm at almost 60 pounds off, right? And so, but my relationship with food changed in that now I still am cognizant of what I'm eating, but the portion control is different. I'm not eating, I felt that I was also eating as a coping mechanism. Over the pandemic, I had gained a lot of weight. Because I was depressed. My cat had died, rest in peace, Taco. And so much had, happened. And I was sitting at home, just DoorDash was my best friend. Also, too, the pandemic, I didn't want to go outside. I wasn't trying to walk through Target and shit. So I was just sitting at home eating the worst stuff and not moving, right? And so I get on the scale and I'm like, oh my God, I gagged. I like gags when I got on the scale. And I was like, I've got to do something. I wasn't sleeping well. My face looked like, it had balloon. It was just bad. Like even watching, like footage and stuff now, I'm like, oh my God, I bet you was fat. And you said that, but like,
Yo.
and like, so now I think about food, like if I really want Chick-fil-A, I'm gonna have Chick-fil-A. But we're gonna work that off. We're also not gonna drink the juice that comes with it.
Balance.
Okay.
Balance.
You gotta balance.
You can't have any type of, sugary dessert if you're gonna do that. And also too, I treat food like auction items. It's gotta be worth the calories. So if it's not like that's how, like if I'm gonna have a snack, it's gotta
better be a snack,
like,
yeah.
It's gotta be like deluxe. I'm not throwing away 600 calories on a Cinnabon. That is not gonna happen.
Not a
I
Cinnabon.
need deluxe fucking rusty scupper warm vanilla butter cake with the fresh strawberry syrup.
See?
Oh my
and
God,
ice
very descriptive.
You know?
See,
Okay.
standards.
Okay.
This is
Heard
what it's
you.
all about.
Heard you.
This is self-care, ladies and
Self-care.
gentlemen.
love it.
And, like,
Self-care is the best health-care.
I do
right.
cardio every day. I work out 6 days a week now. I do a lot of cardio, but I started doing a lot of weight training, which actually is helping me burn a lot better. And I don't want melted candle body. No shade to anybody who lost a lot of weight.
Candle.
But I don't want to be like,
I
ooh,
cannot.
it's like you like melted candle. I just don't.
Oh, man.
All right, well on that note,
All right, we're down to our last
I'm
couple
gonna
of
switch
questions.
gears a little bit. All right, so this is a big one, especially for me because this is my jam.
Okay.
Baltimore,
Moo, moo.
2020. Inspiration, Ballad of Omar. Come on. You know that was my album.
That was our album.
But
That
a
was
year
our-
later-
we bonded deeply.
The actor, rest in peace, Michael K.
yeah.
Williams, passed away, who portrayed that actor Omar. What was your reaction to his passing? Did it bring back any feelings of you recording that project? How was that whole whirlwind for you? Because that was only, really a few months after the project.
I was incredibly sad because with Michael K. Williams, what I liked that he did was he portrayed gay black characters with nuance and depth. When you look at his body of work, from not only just The Wire with the Omar little character, but when you look at Hap and Leonard, which kind of reminded me of my relationship with Bond Street. That's why I liked it so much, because you had a gay black man with a straight white man as his best friend in the world.
I gotta catch that.
It was a Sundance original, I believe. It's on Netflix or something.
Fly.
And that he was slightly in love with, but knew nothing was ever going to come of it. But that was we have great loves of our lives, and I love that character. And then we look at the character that he played on Lovecraft Country.
Lovecraft Country.
And the nuance that was in that character.
Always body.
He always did gay black men of a certain
Dignity.
Yeah, he always did us a service.
That's Jersey, by the way.
You know.
All right, we met our Jersey code.
I'm just saying, like, as long I just gotta make sure. Sometimes, you know.
You got that out your system.
Okay.
I just really, I was sad about it. I was sad at the way in which he passed, which was so sad to me.
Yeah.
Especially after losing DMX. And
That was
Black
a rough
Rob.
stretch. It was a rough stretch.
It was a rough stretch, indeed. Yeah.
I was watching DMX's documentary that they put out on HBO as he passed, and when he was singing, was it Barbra Streisand at the end of the documentary? And I just thought it was such a great gesture. The filmmaker did an incredible job at ending it on a happy note and ending it with DMX singing a Barbra Streisand record. And that's how it ended. I cried at the end of the documentary, and I do not do that.
I love tearjerkers, so I'm probably going to check that out.
I cried at the end of it. That was so
I'm here.
That's
I'm here
sad.
for it. Yeah. Just the man, the life that man lived. Incredible. All right. So, last question. Okay.
This one not fast.
We heard you was gonna be at the Tribeca Film Festival.
Doing some things.
You know what I'm saying? Because you gotta move. Speaking of movers, you know
Kissing
what I'm saying?
babies,
'Cause
rubbing shoulders.
Exactly. Life is a movie and things of that nature. You have a project in the festival, to my knowledge. So, you know, why don't you talk about that?
Okay, so yeah, the film is called Fucking Right Pat. Ferb for short. We got nominated for the Sundance Joy Prize. We did Sundance Film Festival. We won at Aspen Shorts. We won a couple of awards. And we're going to be showing in Tribeca this weekend tomorrow at the Village East Center or something like that. I don't know. Don't shoot me. But yeah, it's a short film. It stars my Tony-nominated co-star, Carl Young. She was nominated for a Tony this year. Slayed the Runway, Slayed the Red Carpet, and Christian Siriano costume.
Slay.
Okay.
Siriano.
And
Bitch, can you spell prom? I can't tell you, my bad.
the great Catherine Curtin, who she plays Dustin's mom on Stranger Things. She's done Big Wolf on Wall Street, Insecure. Like, she's everywhere. Orange is the New Black. That film, my manager, Doris Kassab, actually produced that film along with the director, Harris Duran, who did a phenomenal job directing. It was my first film. And it's comedy-based. And it's something I didn't see coming. I was depressed when we were getting ready to make that film. I was very depressed.
Oh man.
And I was like, God, nothing's gonna happen for me.
That's a cute, beautiful blessing right there. Like
I gagged. And then even like filming it, we filmed it over 3 days. We filmed it 12 hours a day, set up the sundown, and submitted it to Sundance on the last day for submissions. And we ended up getting in to the shorts block.
That's crazy.
And at the time, I was like, okay, I'm doing this, it's another thing. And then it didn't feel real to me until when I saw my name on Deadline. Because I read Deadline.
That's a look.
That's big.
I was like, oh wow, like, bitch, she is on Deadline. And then, after the short came out, I started getting contacted by a lot of talent agency, UTA, casting directors, HBO,
That's amazing.
Places.
That's amazing.
And so that's kind of where my career is shifting, I think.
Okay.
I spent a lot of time in Los Angeles now, a lot of time in different places. And it's something that I didn't expect. I always was a dramatic bitch. I just didn't think that,
a little bit.
it was going to be.
We never know.
That
You never
moment,
know. It's always
know?
unexpected. All right, so speaking of that, just to wrap it up, your career kind of going in a different angle. What's up with the music? You got anything coming? You gave us a little teaser with the Hoochie Daddy. It's a single. Is that tied to a project? That's just a Lucy. We just okay.
I actually made a whole project called Life on Sale. That is actually ready.
Okay.
But things have changed now, so that's going to get the platform it deserves, and not the platform that is available.
Okay.
So
talk about some contracts, NDAs, and shit.
I love it. Listen, get it right.
That's what it sounds right.
It's a beautiful time to be me. This is the first time that I've had like a manager and a lawyer. My lawyer is a great attorney, and I've never had like a real entertainment lawyer, so this is the first.
So you got a squad now. You got like a real squad.
But I'm still me. Like
of
I'm
course.
not like the thing. I think the thing that keeps me grounded, and I think the reason why the powers that be are choosing to work with me is because I always understand where I stand on the chessboard. I think people overestimate their fame and their currency, and the thing is, like, I'm in the running now, but I don't have a hit yet.
Yeah,
I like the way you put that.
We getting there.
Yeah.
Heard you.
You know?
You're doing the work for it. You definitely put in the work for it.
That's why we've had to get in early, because we know at some point it's gonna be like, all right, we ain't gonna be able to reach this.
Period.
I already know what it is.
Once blue check hit this guy, I was like, yo, let's get
I already
it popping.
Listen, we are honored. Shout out to y'all for tuning in. We got a very special guest, DDM. Thank you for being so gracious with your time and honoring us with your presence. We appreciate it to the utmost.
For real.
It's your man, EarthTone.
And your man, the real Peasy.
It's the Herbal Tea Lounge, man, with DDM. Come on now, we're gonna end it like we always like to end it. Go ahead and light that bitch up. We're gonna end it on a high note.
We getting lit. What? Got it rolled up. Now who really tryna hit one? Puff, puff, then we pass.